Hello, dear learners. I am Dr. Jasim Ahmed and giving my services at the Faculty of Education, Jamia Millia Islamia, as a professor of education. Today, in this discussion and deliberation, I am going to cover the topic role of teachers in contemporary school system. As we all know, the teacher is the second most important pillar of school education. After the students, of course, students are the center of gravity of the entire school education system, for which the entire system of school education functions. Place, importance, and role of teachers are like a key, without which the lock of students' personalities cannot be opened. And as we know, each lock has different keys. So, teachers also require to play a variety of roles and responsibilities. They need to modify their strategies so as to suit the unique need of each and every as every child is unique in his or her psychological, social, mental, ideational, socio-economic, socio-cultural, and all other possible aspects in the ever-changing environment. Hence, teacher's role is also ever-changing with new demands to suit the prevailing at the national as well as global level. Here in this discussion today, I have planned to divide my presentation in two parts. One is the conventional role of teachers of a school, and the other one is contemporary role of teachers in a school system. As we know, since the time when the teaching learning has started, the role of teachers and specifically some important roles of teacher are permanent. They have been in the teacher's life throughout the system of education. But as the society is changing day by day and year by year, and nowadays very fast, moment by moment, so the demands are changing. Hence, the contemporary role of teachers has also got changed. Let us first discuss about the conventional roles of teachers. As we know that teachers are the mirror of values and ethics. That is, those values and ethics which are socially approved by the community, the values which are approved by the society, the values which are approved by our family system, the values which are approved by our social system. Teachers need to present those values by practicing them so that the students or the new young ones and the new generation can imbibe those values from their teachers. So this is the most important responsibility of a teacher to reflect those socially established values which are proven by or which are practiced by and which are liked by our society. The second most important conventional role is to play a model of to play a model following national values to be nurtured among young ones. As we know, that our country, India, is a secular state, is a democratic state. So each and every teacher needs to practice these values in our school setup, in our educational system. We have to practice these values as a teacher in the school system also, so that the students can imbibe those values, can grasp those values, can absorb those values by looking at their teachers. For example, if a teacher, especially a class teacher, starts the session and at the beginning he just pick up Mr. Ramesh or Mr. Shahid as the monitor of the class. So what the teacher is giving message to the class, the teacher is giving a message that he is autocratic, he is not democratic. And so the students will not develop in their personality the democratic values of our country, of a great nation, India. For this, the class teacher requires to elect a monitor of the class by giving choices of each and every one available in the class. And so you have to practice democratic values and democratic process in the classroom itself in the election of a monitor. Through this process, students will be able to integrate, will be able to imbibe the value of democracy in their daily lives. Third one is command on the subject you are teaching. That is the most important aspect of. These are the most important aspect of the personality of a teacher. Suppose I am a biology teacher, I must be well conversed. I must have a good command on biology. If you are a history teacher, you must have very good command on history. If you are teaching chemistry, you must have a good command on chemistry so that you can solve each and every problem of the child pertaining to that subject. So command on the subject you are teaching is one of the most important attributes of a good teacher, and which is conventional role of a teacher. Then just knowing the subject is not sufficient for a teacher. Merely having grasp of the subject, merely having command of the subject is not sufficient for a teacher. It is sufficient for your knowledge, certainly. But here you are a teacher and you have to transfer those knowledge which you had into the classroom, into the new generation. Basically, nowadays, transfer of knowledge is not considered education. Nowadays, in this present scenario, we try to construct students' knowledge. For that, we need pedagogical strategies to be imbibed by all the teachers, all of us. If we understand the pedagogy, if we understand the theory of teaching, if we understand the science of teaching, how to translate the curriculum, how to teach, how to use different methods of teaching, how to explain whatever you want to explain to the class, how to demonstrate whatever you want to demonstrate to the class, only then you can teach properly and effectively whatever you want to teach. This is again a conventional role of the teacher, that the teacher must understand the pedagogy, that is the transactional strategies and teaching skills any subject, of any subject in general and particular subject in a specific. For example, there are general teaching skills for all subjects, and of course, there are some specific skills which are used in a particular subject. For example, in biology, we have dissection skill, we have mounting skills, we have classification skills, and several skills are there in biology, but which are not used in commerce or economics or history. Similarly, there are certain skills which are used in other subjects which are not used in biology. So each and every teacher must be well conversed with the general pedagogic strategies, teaching skills, as well as those skills which are required in a particular subject. Then, merely teaching will again not work. We need to assess students' learning. Whatever we are teaching, our purpose is not only to teach. Our purpose is that the students must learn. Our ambition is that the students must learn. Our target is that the students must learn. Their personality should grow. Their understanding should grow. Their interest in the subject should grow. Their curiosity in the subject should grow. And all these things, whether growing or not, they need a kind of assessment. So teachers must be aware about the assessment techniques which are used in the present scenario. Maybe the techniques which we have been using since time immemorial, but nowadays there are certain new techniques which are evolving depending upon the changing nature of education system. Like previously there was one concept, assessment, which covered everything, but now we talk about assessment of learning, assessment for learning, and assessment as learning. In present scenario, we are using assessment not only for assessment, but assessment are being used as a technique of teaching again. Now come to the next point. All students have hidden potentialities. Each and every student has their own interest. Each and every student has their own aptitude. Each and every student has their own, options for different careers. Teacher's responsibility is to identify those potentialities, those qualities of the learner. Teacher's responsibility is to identify their aptitude and leading these students properly to better career choices. Awareness and ability to apply psychological, sociological, philosophical principles involved in teaching learning is very important on the part of the teacher. And this is the reason that each and every teacher education program be it a Bachelor of Education, be it a Master of Education, be it a diploma in elementary teacher education, be it a Bachelor of Nursery Education, be it a Bachelor of Special Education, or any teacher education program must have these three components as a core part of their curriculum. Each and every teacher is required to understand all those philosophical, psychological, and sociological principles which are involved in the teaching learning process. So this is our moral responsibility and this is our professional responsibility to understand all those principles which help in understanding the learner and teaching them to modify their personality, to build up their personality, to build up their career. This is the most important responsibility of the teacher because you have to educate the child, not just teach the child. Teaching is different and educate is different. Whenever you deliver a lecture in the classroom, your teaching is over. But whether the learners have got some education or not, that is a different thing. Education system works not for teaching, it works for education of the child. What is education? This is a very important question. What is education? Many philosophers have given different definitions of education. For a layman, education is something which change our life. For a layman, education is something which build our career. For a layman, education is something which help you and which make you able to earn money for your livelihood. If education is doing this particular role, is playing its particular role, then the education is successful. This is the reason that Immanuel Kant, one of the most important and learned and very famous philosopher, has given a definition of education in a different manner. He writes, education is the development in the individual of all the perfection of which he is capable. Now, teachers are required to read and understand this definition. Immanuel Kant is pointing towards the teacher that as education is the development in the individual of all the perfection of which he is capable, it means the teacher's responsibility is to understand the learner and try to find out for which he is or she is capable and for which he or she is capable, that capability has to be developed by the teacher and only then this will be the education of the child. Similarly, Professor T.P. Nunn defines education as it is the complete development of individuality of the child. Complete development of individuality means each and every child has his or her own individuality. And he again says further, as it is the complete development of individuality of the child, so that he can make his original contribution to human life according to his best capacity. So that best capacity has to be identified by the teacher again so that he can use, manipulate his best capacity and he can contribute his original contribution to the world. So again, T.P. Nunn is pointing towards the role of teachers in developing, growing, teaching, educating the child. So these are, contemporary roles. As so, these were the conventional role of teachers, which is still our role in the present scenario, in the present generation, at the present time. But now the society has developed a lot. The world has developed a lot. Now the world is like a room. You can be there in your single room and you can see the White House. What President of America is speaking about, what they are doing there. Now the world is like a stage. The world now the world has so shrink that you can communicate throughout the world. You can learn from anywhere in the world. You can bring something from anywhere in the world. You can have your marketing and shopping sitting in the room. Technology is at the far front. Technology has grasped and engulfed each and every aspect of life. And so is with education. So the now teacher's role has become manifold, increased. Since the contemporary role of teacher, in addition to the conventional role, are manifold grown up. So the first important role, I think, need of the hour is that the students are facing so many problems in their daily life. Their family problems, their social problems, their cultural problems. Nowadays, you can observe that because of this COVID-19 pandemic, the world is facing acute problem. The entire world is, confined in their homes, and stress problem is rising up. Problem of anxiety is rising up. So the role of teacher as a counselor becomes more important and very important. So teacher not only has to teach in the classroom, but they are supposed to counsel their students in a proper manner. And counseling not only for these stress management, but the counseling maybe for academic as well as career, as well as personal guidance and so on. So any kind of problem any students if face, they can come to the teacher, discuss with the teacher, and try to solve them with the help of the teachers. If teachers can play a role of counselor with efficiency, with effectiveness, then he or she can be a good teacher. And his students would be very happy to interact with those teachers, to meet those teachers, to discuss problems of those with those teachers who are ready to solve their problems. So in the present scenario, each and every teacher required to be a good sound counselor. Then the role of facilitator. Each and every teacher nowadays needs to be facilitating the learning process of all these students, not only in the classroom, but also at the road, in the playground, sitting at their homes, wherever students need their facilitation, wherever their students need their help and cooperation, teacher should be ready. And for that, teacher require himself or herself updated, skilled, competent enough. They should be ready to use and teach online, especially in this present scenario, what we are doing, what the nation is doing, what the globe is doing. Everything is now being done with the help of computer and internet technology. Everything is being done online. And if teachers are not capable of doing this, using these online services, he or she cannot help their students. So those teachers who are competent enough, those teachers who are techno-friendly, those teachers who know how to use technology and different tools of ICT for interaction, for communication, for teaching and learning. They are still engaged in this COVID-19 pandemic, and they are interacting with the teacher, with the students. They are interacting with their classes. They are solving the problem of their students, and the students are continuously in touch with their teachers. Teachers required to develop their own skills of using all these tools like smart classes. They should be able to use social media platforms like YouTube, Instagram, WhatsApp, blogs, Facebook, online classes on Google Meet, Zoom, Jitsi Meet, or any other platform. Now, these technologies are very fastly growing, and every day, or every week, or every month, you see with new software, new technology. So, teacher must be ready to accept all these developmental stages and development in the field of ICT, in the field of education, in the field of classroom transaction, and they should be able to update themselves, ready to face the situation and handle the situation and use the opportunity in different dimensions, so that the teaching learning process do not suffer at any cost. Teacher is also required to nurture creativity among the learners, nurture positive attitude among the learners, nurture problem solving skills among the learners. Because the present generation, the present stage, the present world is the world of those who are creative in nature. It is the world of those who are having positive attitude. It is the world of those who are a problem solver. That is the reason that in private sector, especially the big companies, the big houses of production, they are having a great demand of those persons, of those executives who are creative in nature, who can create something new, who can solve problems creatively and fastly, who have positive attitude to deal with the diverse situation which is arising at any moment of time. So, a teacher is also required to be friendly with the students. He or she requires to be philosopher and guide for the learners. Then, each and every teacher is required to reflect the attitude of teacher professional. As we know that each and every profession has its own qualities. Doctors have their own qualities, their own attitude, their own value system, their own ethical system. Engineers have their own skills and ethics. Lawyers, the advocates have their own attitude, ethics, values, and skills. Each and every profession has some specific skills, some specific kind of attitude, some specific, reflection by the professionals. So each and every teacher is required to have attitude of teacher professional. You are not just human being. You are not just a teacher. Teacher can be anybody who is teaching in the classroom. But we as a teacher, and if I suppose myself, if you suppose yourself as a teacher, not merely a teacher who is teaching in the classroom, then you have to develop all those skills and you have to put yourself in front of the learners as a professional teacher, not a simple teacher. I mean, I'm differentiating between a simple teacher, a general teacher, and a professional teacher. A professional teacher is that who is well versed with the pedagogy, well versed with the subject, well versed with the technology, well versed with the ethics and values of teachers. And he or she should present his or her personality in such a way that anybody who see him or her can say, yes, he or she is a good teacher. Similarly, nowadays the society is changing, the demands are changing. Education is becoming costly. And people are not having so much resources to invest on education. Schools have very, you know, in a situation where there is a lack of resources, government is unable to fund much more on education. Hence, this is the responsibility of the teacher in the contemporary society that the teacher should be able to develop low-cost, self-improvised resources. Because without resources, you cannot be a good teacher. You can teach verbal in the classroom. Maybe you are teaching very well, but if you are a brilliant teacher without any resources, then if resources are available too, you can be even more brilliant. So try to develop low cost self improvised resources, and in doing so, you can get participation of the learners. This will also increase learners' interest in the teaching learning process. Suppose if you are trying to use a beaker in the classroom and your science lab don't have beaker, or there was a beaker but it's not broken down, so you can use waste bottle, this very waste bottle, and using that waste bottle you can convert it into a beaker. Similarly, you can create self improvise so many resources, so many equipment in the laboratory to teach in the classroom, and by doing so you can have more participation on the part of the learner. And when learners would be using those resources which they have developed on their own, they will be much more imbibed in the teaching learning process. Their interest will be at higher level. Their devotion will be at higher level. They will be very desirous to know the impact of those resources in teaching as well as their learning. So it is having manifold benefits. Now, one most important thing which every teacher should understand, that outcome is very important. We are now talking about learning outcome. Learning outcome has become the slogan of the day. In NCRT, many programs have been organized, many materials have been developed. For each class, learning outcomes has been developed and decided. Books have been created for teachers and for the students, that for class 6, what should be the learning outcome, for class 7, what should be the learning outcome, for class 8, what should be the learning outcome. So for class 1 to class 12, for each class, for each subject, there is learning outcome which is already defined. Teachers are supposed to achieve that through their teaching process. But the question is very important, that whether we teach in the classroom for just the purpose of teaching or for learning outcomes on the part of the learner. What amount of learning outcomes can be can be weighted towards teaching, because students may learn a lot on their own by using various other resources. So if a student has got 80% marks in the examination, what do you think? Out of this 80%, what percent goes to the teacher who was teaching in the classroom that particular subject? I think maybe all 80%, or maybe just on 10%, or just 70% is because of some other factors. So we don't have any mechanism to find out that whether this learning outcome is because of the teaching only. Or in other words, we can say what amount of satisfaction and what amount of learning outcomes can be bestowed to teaching and teaching only, which were done by the subject teacher in the classroom. So I mean to say that there is a need to find ways to assess teaching outcomes. Learning outcomes should not be equated with teaching outcomes. Students learn a lot on their own. Teacher needs to raise his or her contribution in overall learning achievement of the learners. As we know that nowadays, because of technology, because of advancement in technologies, because of research is going on in various fields of education, new approaches and new methods of teaching and assessment has come up. So in the contemporary society, in the contemporary schooling system, each and every teacher is required to be updated about the new approaches and methods of teaching and assessment so that he can cope up with the present demands of the school system, present demands of the students, present demands of the society, and present requirements of each and every student. There is a need to develop continuous relationship with our alumni and help each other in dealing with professional issues. What we observe in India, that whosoever pass out from the school or passed out from our department as a dear student, whosoever goes out, whosoever passed out, they generally don't come to the department, or they generally are not invited to the department. So there is a huge gap between the teacher and the produced of that particular teacher, between the department or between the schools and the product of the schools. There is a need to develop a link between the school and its passed out alumnus. There is a need to develop a link between the department and the alumni of the department, and develop not only link but participate in the problem solving of each other. They have their own skills now. They may be very helpful for the department, for the school. They can come, they can be called, they can be invited, problem may be discussed, and in this way, schools, teachers can solve their problem with the help of those alumni, and alumni can also solve so many issues, so many problems which they are facing in their profession, in their teaching. Their teachers can help them still at this stage when they are in job. School need to be a place of learning in the contemporary world, not merely a place where teaching is organized. What is happening nowadays, mostly school is supposed to be a place where teaching is organized in the classroom. Out of the class, there is nothing. There is a need to develop entire school setup as a place of learning. So learning should not go only in the classroom. Learning should go everywhere in the school premises. So learning should be a continuous process, and students should learn not only in the classroom but through science clubs, through eco clubs, through any other club, through any other organization, through any other society which are built up, which are developed, which are created in the school, within the school system, by the students, by the teachers, or by the student teacher combinedly. And the entire stay time of learners in the school system should be used as a means of learning, not only the time which they are consuming in the classroom. A modern teacher needs to be Superman, Superwoman. You know that the film Superman is very popular and liked by the young generation. And the young generation, the students of class, primary or upper primary or even secondary classes, think that the Superman are those who solve their each and every problem. So teachers are also required to be Superman or Superwoman in their own subjects. And they should behave students and they should welcome students in such a way that a student do not hesitate in going and putting their problem in front of the teacher. As the Superman always welcomes any individual, any person of the society, any boy, any girl to solve their problem by them. Then there is a need to continuous updating of teachers' knowledge and skills. You as a teacher, I as a teacher, all teachers must try hard to continue update their knowledge and skills so that they can develop a very good balance with their personal life and professional life throughout their professional services. Then the teacher also should have the ability to find the needs of students and deliver the same. Contemporary world is a completely changed world. Parents either have no time or are not so skilled to guide their children. Teachers' role has become vast, multifarious, and diverse. They need to fulfill them at their best level so that the students may socialize and adjust in the new world with highest level of contribution and satisfaction. Finally, we may conclude that teachers' role in the contemporary world has become manifold. As the world is becoming more complex, more techno-dependent, fast, with diverse socio-cultural issues and with a vast sea of opportunities, teachers need to be updated regularly so that they can play significant role in performing their professional duties and responsibilities with precision, articulation, and naturalization. With this, I will stop. Thank you so much for listening.